Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. This week, we're taking a global look at the top tech and business news from November 24th to the 30th.
Oh, right.
Our roadmap for this journey is the TechViews 10X Top 10 Tech News of the Week.
Love that.
Think of it as like your cheat sheet to what's what in the tech world right now.
Yeah.
From market movers to some serious global power plays.
You know what's really got me thinking this week is how these stories, they may seem separate at first glance, but they really start to connect when you dig a little deeper.
Yeah.
It's like we're watching this global chess game unfold.
Okay, I like it.
Where, innovation and geopolitics are becoming more and more intertwined.
Okay, so I'm ready to play.
All right.
Let's start with the market movers, shall we? The Dow Jones hit record levels this week.
It did.
Tech giants like NVIDIA, Meta, even Apple are getting close to those, buy points that get investors excited.
Now, of course, remember, we're not giving financial advice here.
Right.
But for those of you who are interested in the stock market, a buy point. It's basically a price level that analysts use to signal that it might be a good time to buy a stock.
Yeah.
So the fact that these big players are nearing these points could mean that there's an upward trend, reflecting that market optimism.
But wait a minute.
Yeah.
Not every company is celebrating right now.
Right.
Supermicro Computer Inc.,
Right.
which is a big name in AI hardware, saw its stock take a nosedive this month. Like a dramatic 34% drop,
Oof.
which is a wild swing considering they were up 15% for the year.
It's a good reminder that it's always important to look beyond just the headlines.
Yeah.
In this case, it seems that, concerns about Supermicro's financial filings and some changes in their auditing process, that seems to have spooked investors a little bit,
Yeah.
despite the overall positive feeling in the AI sector.
So even if a sector is doing well, individual companies can still hit some roadblocks.
For sure.
It really highlights why it's so important to do your homework, For anyone who's thinking about investing in this space.
Your due diligence.
Yeah, you got to research and understand a company before you jump on the bandwagon.
100%.
Okay.
All right, so let's switch gears now and talk about electric vehicles,
Let's do it.
which is proving to be anything but a smooth ride.
Uh-oh.
We have Chinese EV makers like BYD, XPeng, and Zeekr absolutely smashing sales records.
Wow.
BYD alone sold over 506,000 EVs this month,
Seriously.
which is a crazy 67.9% increase compared to last year.
Those are some serious numbers.
They are.
What's fueling this incredible growth? I mean, are they just making amazing cars or is there more to it?
Well, I think part of it is definitely the Chinese government's strong push for EV adoption.
Right.
They've put in place a lot of incentives and policies to make EVs more affordable and accessible to people. And Chinese EV makers like BYD, they've been really quick to capitalize on this growing demand,
Right.
investing heavily in R&D and expanding their production.
So it's like a perfect storm.
Yeah.
Government support, smart business strategy, and people actually wanting EVs.
Exactly.
But then you have other Chinese EV makers like NIO and Li Auto who are seeing their sales dip a little bit. Seems like they're having to rethink things to keep up in this super competitive market.
Competition's definitely heating up.
Yeah.
NIO and Li Auto, they're known for their high-end, tech-heavy EVs.
Yeah.
But they're facing pressure not just from other Chinese brands, but also from international players like Tesla, who are really increasing their presence in China.
It's really interesting to see how this market is changing with everyone fighting for the top spot.
It is.
And it's not just about the cars themselves, right?
Right.
There's this bigger geopolitical context we have to consider.
Absolutely.
Take, for example, the recent news about Indonesia rejecting a $100 million investment from Apple.
Right.
And the reason? They weren't happy with Apple's commitment to using local content in their manufacturing.
Yeah.
This feels like a sign of a bigger trend.
It is.
Where countries are saying, hey, we want to be involved in the tech industry.
Yeah.
Not just on the sidelines.
Local involvement.
Yeah, and that could change the whole game in terms of global power dynamics.
It really could.
So it's not just about who can make the best electric car or smartphone. It's about where they make it and how that affects the local economy. It adds a whole new layer to this global tech chess game.
A whole new layer of complexity.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of power plays,
Oh, here we go.
let's talk about Huawei.
Right.
They just launched their Mate 70 smartphone.
Right.
And this isn't your average phone launch.
What's so special?
This one's running entirely on their own Harmony OS Next operating system.
Wow.
It's a bold move, especially considering, the U.S. sanctions against Huawei.
It definitely sends a message.
It does.
Like Huawei is saying, we're doing things our way. even with these restrictions.
Yeah.
It makes you think about the long-term consequences, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, could this lead to two separate tech worlds?
Right.
One led by the U.S. and its allies, and the other by China.
It's a big question.
It is.
It's something we need to think about.
Yeah.
The tech world is becoming more and more divided along these geopolitical lines.
It's true.
And Huawei's push to be self-sufficient, that's a prime example of this.
And how might this affect companies like Apple?
Yeah.
They're already facing tough competition in the Chinese market.
Right.
Could this mean they lose even more market share?
It's possible.
Yeah.
If Huawei can successfully build a strong ecosystem around Harmony OS,
Yeah.
with app services, a good user experience, they could potentially, pull Chinese consumers away from Android and iOS.
Right.
Which would be a big hit to Apple in that market.
This is getting really interesting.
It is.
The stakes are high and the moves are getting bolder.
Absolutely.
But before we get completely lost in this global tech chessboard,
Yeah.
let's take a quick breather
Right.
and come back in part 2, where we'll look at some other noteworthy headlines from this past week.
Sounds good. Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about how, those geopolitical forces are really reshaping the tech world.
Totally. And companies like Huawei are making some pretty bold moves
Right.
to, carve out their own space.
Yeah.
But, amidst all those high-stakes power plays.
Yeah.
There are also a few smaller stories that I found really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Like Rocket Lab, the private space company. They had a record-breaking week.
Really?
Not only did they launch 2 missions in just 24 hours.
Wow.
Talk about efficiency.
Yeah.
But they also secured a big chunk of funding from the GPS Act
Nice.
to boost their semiconductor manufacturing in New Mexico.
I think this really shows how important the private space sector is becoming,
Mhm.
not just in terms of launching satellites, but
Yeah.
also in their contribution to, advanced manufacturing and tech innovation here on Earth.
Right here on the ground.
Exactly. And getting funding from the GPS Act, which is mainly focused on boosting domestic semiconductor production. It shows how closely tied the space industry is becoming with national economic interests.
It's a good reminder that what happens up in space doesn't stay in space.
True.
These developments have a real impact on industries and economies down here.
They have a ripple effect.
They do.
Now, speaking of things a little closer to home,
Okay.
for those of you looking for some earthly delights,
Uh-huh.
Best Buy's Black Friday deals are in full swing.
Oh, nice.
Discounts of up to 52% on electronics.
All right.
A little retail therapy never hurts.
No, especially after all this talk of global power shifts and tech disruption.
Right.
Hey, a good deal is a good deal.
It is.
It's a nice reminder that even with all these complex global trends, there are still some everyday tech wins to be had.
Yeah, there are.
Okay, but now, let's shift our focus to the future.
To the future.
Both the World Economic Forum and MIT Technology Review have released their lists of top emerging technologies for 2024.
I saw those.
And let me tell you,
Yeah.
some of these are straight out of science fiction.
It's incredible how fast innovation is happening.
It really is.
These lists give us a peek into what the world might look like in the next few years.
Yeah.
And it's exciting and kind of mind-boggling at the same time.
Okay, so what really stood out to you from these lists? What are the technologies that we should all be keeping an eye on?
Well, one that really caught my attention is the advancement in AI-powered scientific discovery.
Like, what do you mean?
Well, imagine algorithms that can analyze tons of data and come up with groundbreaking hypotheses.
Wow.
Or even design brand new experiments.
That sounds like something out of a movie.
I know, right?
But is this really happening?
It's already starting.
Seriously.
Scientists are using AI to speed up drug discovery, identify new materials, even model complex climate patterns.
That's wild.
It could completely change how fast scientific progress happens,
Yeah.
leading to breakthroughs that we never thought possible just a few years ago.
That's amazing. But what does this mean for human scientists?
Right.
In a world where AI is making these huge leaps, are we all going to be replaced by algorithms?
I think it's a valid concern,
Yeah.
but I believe that AI will actually help human capabilities rather than replacing them entirely.
Right.
Think of it as a really powerful tool
Yeah.
that will allow scientists to do even more incredible work, freeing them up from those tedious tasks
Okay.
and letting them focus on the bigger picture.
So it's like having a super smart research assistant
Exactly.
by your side, helping you make sense of all that data.
Yeah, and uncover those hidden insights.
I like that.
Another fascinating area is the development of carbon-capturing microbes.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Carbon capturing microbes.
These tiny organisms basically suck carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere.
Seriously?
Yeah.
So we could fight climate change with microbes.
Potentially, it's a real and promising area of research.
That's incredible.
These microbes could be a game changer in our fight against climate change, helping us reach our climate goals and create a more sustainable future.
That's awesome. It's really encouraging to see innovation being used to tackle such a huge global challenge.
It is.
What else stood out to you from those lists?
Well, we can't talk about emerging technologies without mentioning AI again.
Of course not.
This time, it's not about scientific discovery, but about creative expression.
Interesting.
MIT Technology Review highlighted AI-generated poetry. That's so good.
Really?
It's becoming hard to tell the difference between that and human-written work.
What?
It raises some really interesting questions about the future of art and, what it means to express yourself.
Yeah.
If a machine can create something that moves us emotionally, what does that say about human creativity?
It's a really interesting thought. I've actually played around with some AI writing tools myself.
Oh, yeah.
And the results were amazing.
Yeah.
It makes you think about what creativity really is.
Right.
And whether these tools are just copying human expression or if they can do something truly original.
It's a question that philosophers and artists will be debating for years to come.
Yeah, for sure.
But one thing's for sure.
What's that?
AI is pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible.
It is.
Making us reconsider our own definitions of art and creativity.
It's definitely a conversation worth having.
Absolutely.
And speaking of mind-blowing advancements, let's not forget about the progress being made in quantum computing.
Oh, yeah. Quantum computing.
It's still early days.
It is.
But the potential is huge.
It is. It really is.
To revolutionize fields like medicine materials,
Okay.
science, even finance.
Quantum computing could unlock a whole new level of understanding about the universe,
Wow.
allowing us to do calculations that are impossible for normal computers.
Right.
Imagine designing life-saving drugs,
Mm-hmm.
creating completely new materials with amazing properties,
Yeah.
or even cracking the codes that protect our most sensitive data.
Okay, before we get too lost in a quantum vortex,
Yeah.
let's take a step back
Right.
and think about what all this means for us. The everyday users of technology.
Right. The people actually using this stuff.
Exactly. What are the key takeaways from this whirlwind tour of the tech world?
I think the biggest takeaway is that the tech landscape is changing faster than ever before.
Yeah.
And this rapid change brings both huge opportunities and potential challenges.
It's a time of great excitement, but also uncertainty.
Definitely.
Opportunity in the sense that we have these breakthroughs that can make our lives so much better,
Right.
but also challenges in adapting to these changes,
Mm-hmm.
understanding what they really mean,
Yeah.
and making sure these technologies are developed and used ethically and responsibly.
Got it.
We're entering a time where understanding technology isn't just a nice to have.
Right.
It's a must have.
It's essential.
Yeah, you have to stay informed, think critically, and be proactive in shaping the future you want to see.
Well said.
This deep dive has given us so much to think about.
It really has.
So much is happening so quickly, it's hard to keep up.
It is. There's so much going on.
Yeah. But let's take a deep breath. Thanks for joining us on this whirlwind exploration of the tech world.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll be back next week with more fascinating insights and thought-provoking discussions.
Looking forward to it.
Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.